Hi everyone, I'm Julia from Pegasus Spiele. We are happy to be here at Virtual Tabletop Gaming Live, and today we are going to show you some of our new games for 2021. We start with our new role-playing game within the Talisman world. Magical forests, treacherous mountains, deadly dungeons and more await you between these pages. All you need to play this game are a few friends, 3 6-sided dice, 2 to 4 hours and your imagination. The Talisman Adventures role-playing game core rulebook is already available digitally through DriveThruRPG. The hardcover version will be released in the second quarter of 2021. And that's not all. Following the core rulebook, we have the Game Master's Kit, online adventures and the first in a series of supplement books with Tales of the Dungeon. These supplement books will include a host of player and game master support with new character options, monsters and a full-length adventure set in the board game's iconic dungeon.
Talisman, the 80s hit game by Games Workshop, merged board games with elements of role-playing games, and its 4 editions introduced generations to the world of fantasy gaming. Plenty of expansions, adaptations and fan content have kept Talisman fresh and alive ever since. Now, in 2020, Games Workshop and Pegasus Spiele released the tabletop role-playing game based on the cult game, Talisman Adventures. The tabletop role-playing game is steeped in the Talisman mythology. The setting is the same fantasy world you know from the board game, but you can now learn the backgrounds and secrets of its places and people, such as their names, their stories, and what conflicts drive them. Ages ago, the realm was split in 3 by the Great Wizard. It is isolated from the rest of the world by seas and mountain ranges. A river that seems to flow in a circle and is nearly impossible to cross separates the outer region from the dangerous desert landscape of the middle region, and from there, a portal leads to the fabled inner region. The Great Wizard shaped the world and left behind talismans. These powerful artifacts can be used for many different purposes, such as keeping evil spirits sealed away or influencing the minds of others. Talismans are well guarded, like the potent treasures they are, and many are eager to call one their own. Shady warlocks send out adventurers to secure talismans, but what they plan to do with them might not always be for the greater good. Rumor has it that the talisman can awaken the dead, and that they are the only key to enter the inner regions, where the Great Wizard has hidden his greatest treasure, the Crown of Command. But the realm is in disorder. Since the wizard broke the realm apart, hardly anyone has reached the hexed king and queen in their castle. The priests of the temple, mediators of the 3 higher powers, have been cut off from their congregations. The people of the outer regions put their trust in a few magical messengers, but this trust could be misplaced. It will take great heroes to find out what is really going on in the castle and the temple. But such a journey will be dangerous, as rogues, goblins, cultists, undead and other monstrous creatures lurk everywhere. The heroes in this game can be humans, elves and dwarves, as you might expect, but also trolls, sprites and even misunderstood ghouls. They might be powerful warriors, cunning thieves, priests of both light and darkness, shady assassins, druids of nature or carefree minstrels. And they most certainly will gather followers to help them on their quests, in case they get turned into a toad again. Our heroes travel a fantastical world, modeled after the one of the board game, searching for fame, riches, magical items, or simply the thrill of heroic deeds. The realm has a clear geography, just as it does in the board game, and welcomes new players looking for a perfect introduction to the world of tabletop role-playing games. Talisman Adventures is based on the same ideas as the board game, but enriches and expands them to fit the interactive, narrative vision of a tabletop role-playing game. It provides a fascinating world of fantasy for your characters to go hunt for talismans, explore uncharted regions, battle ancient curses and defeat vile threats. Most importantly, it allows you to craft memorable adventures and stories together with your friends. In the Talisman Adventures fantasy role-playing game, you will take on the role of an adventurer. You might be a human prophet, a sprite assassin, or a troll wizard. There are a lot of different combinations of ancestry and class you can try out, and they can all bring unique strengths to a group of heroes. But whether you are strong and charge into a fight with sword and shield, or are clever and stay out of danger to cast spells, Everything you do is described by a simple set of numbers and values and is decided by a roll of 3 6-sided dice. At the core of a character are 2 attributes, strength and craft. Strength stands for physical abilities, like toughness, strength, and agility for your character. Craft determines their intelligence, cleverness, and ability to use magical powers. From these 2 attributes branch off 6 aspects, 3 each. These are often going to be the most defining part of the character. You can assign points to them depending on the respective aspect, so a character with high strength and low craft can assign more points to their strength aspects than they can to their craft aspects. The next level down are skills. You start out with 2 of them, or a specialized version of 2 skills, which is called a focus, or a mixture of both. These determine what your character is proficient in doing, but keep in mind that you won't earn new skills quickly, so choose them carefully. Skills range from animal handling to spellcasting, and some of them, like spellcasting, cannot be used if you have no training in them. Skills have no numbers associated with them. You either know a skill or you don't. Now, how and when do you use these stats? Not for everyday things. Walking from one room to another, speaking with someone, reading a letter, all those things do not need a roll. The dice only come into play once your character might fail at a roll, and that failure might have consequences. For instance, when you leap across a chasm, climb a wall, sneak past a guard, or call upon magical powers, if there's something at stake, grab your dice. Each time you roll, you need 3 6-sided dice or D6. One of them should be of a different color. This is called the Kismet die, and it's going to add special effects to the game. The game master decides on a target number you have to beat to do what you plan on doing, depending on how hard the task is. And then you roll the 3 dice, add up the results. If the total is the target number or higher, it's a success. If it's lower, your character failed and something has gone wrong. What exactly is up to the game master to decide. A normal success lets you achieve your goal, but with minor setbacks. You might hit your enemy, but they can hit you back, for instance. But if 2 dice in your roll show the same number and the total hits or beats the target number, it's a great success, and you achieve your goal with no setbacks. If all 3 dice show the same number, and the roll is also high enough to be successful, it's an extraordinary success, and something powerful will happen, like defeating an enemy instantly or moving a crowd to tears with a simple speech. If you attempt something that falls under a skill you're trained in, like climbing if you have the athletic skill, you can also add the relevant aspects value to the roll. This increases your chances a lot. If you've got the right focus for the skill, you can add another +2. But what about the Kismet die? It generates fate. Fate is either on your side or on your enemy's side. A result of 1 and a 6 on the Kismet die adds dark and light fate points to pools that you and the game master can use to get better rolls or activate special abilities. Always keep in mind that you have this resource to nudge fate a little bit your way. And that's mostly it. There's special abilities, and when you get into a fight, there's extra rules on who gets to act when and how to handle wounds, but nearly anything in the game can be decided by the 3d6 and a handful of simple rules and numbers. Now, go out into the world of Talisman and try out what your character can do.
Kyoto is a core game from our partners at Different Games. Everyone represents countries, negotiating how to best address climate change issues. Saving the planet is important, but you must also ensure that your country comes on top. It's a fast-paced, semi-cooperative tabletop game that addresses serious topics in a fun manner. And it's available online or at your local retailer.
Welcome to the Climate Change Conference. Unsettling studies claim that the world is on the brink of environmental collapse. Air pollution and global warming are increasing rapidly. More and more species are going extinct. You are representatives of different countries, and it's up to you to save the planet. Surely you'll do everything you can, right? At least as long as your own country's wealth is preserved, and you don't snub those important lobbies, of course. In response to the studies, you take part in quick and intense negotiation rounds. During these, you get many chances to support various climate goals by foregoing wealth, reducing emissions, and providing funding from your state coffers. You can also try to bribe other countries to convince them to support your agenda. Isn't the prosperity and economy of your own country the most important thing? Isn't it enough that the others are doing something? After all, at the end of the conference, the country that best maintained its wealth is going to win. Unless the impending damage to the planet becomes too severe, then whoever was too greedy will be left empty-handed. Kyoto is an exciting climate thriller, unusual and revealing. Kyoto. Money makes the world go down. Money or world? What will you be fighting for?
Presented by Deep Print Games.
We are sure that you have already heard about Micromacco Crime City from our partners at Edition Spielwiese. The unique new family game where everyone hunts together for clues hidden across a huge city map filled with humorously illustrated crimes. Together you explore Crime City to answer the questions concerning your current crime. Each answer reveals a bit more of what happened until you found all the clues and cracked the case. By the way, in February, Micromacco was awarded the As d'Or, the French Game of the Year award. Undo, Weaving Fate Anew. After the release last May of 600 Seconds, the 7th game in this line, we are already working on 2 new titles of the successful series for this year. Peak of No Return releases in March, and here the players must rewrite the fate of not just 1 but 7 characters. All mountaineers in the dangerous Himalayas. Next comes Long Live the King, set in the 13th century and concerning untimely deaths at a royal court. Our editorial team is currently working on finalizing this game, which is filled with intrigues and plots.
Undo, Weaving Fate Anew are a series of story-driven games in which you must change the course of fate to stop someone's death. The story starts with their death. Treasure Fever takes place in the Yucatan jungle in 1952. A woman has jumped out of a plane holding an ancient relic. She tries to pull the cord of her parachute, but it won't open as she hurtles towards the ground. You must work together to change history and stop this tragedy from happening. You do that by jumping back in time to brief moments in the woman's life that led to her death. The backs of the cards tell you when and where they take place. You choose one to visit, then read the story on the card. You'll learn about her life, gaining clues to why she died. As you reveal fragments of the mystery, your group must come up with theories and fill in the gaps with your imagination. Was she murdered? Was it an accident? How can you stop it from happening? Each card gives you the chance to change the past, but will you choose the option that saves her life? You reveal the result and find out if your actions helped or made things worse. At the end of the game, you will add up the points that you've received and see if your score is enough to save her life and win the game. You can learn more from these clue cards that give you vital information about people and objects connected to the story. But choose wisely because you can only look at 4 of them. Each Undo box contains a standalone story. The other new story available now is Forbidden Knowledge, which is inspired by a short story by H.P. Lovecraft. The story begins with a man stood in a cemetery looking into an open grave. He's on the phone to a friend who is telling him to run away. Then suddenly he hears a disembodied voice that tells him his friend is dead. The man starts laughing hysterically before dropping dead. You will travel back through 1920s Arkham, Massachusetts to unravel the mystery and save his life. And once you've completed those, there are 3 other stories in the series. Curse from the Past, which takes you to ancient Egypt, Blood in the Gutter, set in 1920s Chicago, and Cherry Blossom Festival in modern-day Japan. Later this year, you can try to rewrite history by stopping a bomb from going off on New Year's Eve in the upcoming story 600 Seconds. With each game, the deck of cards teaches you the rules in 2 minutes, and then you get straight into the story. It's a game for 2 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, and will take between 45 and 90 minutes. Once you're finished, the game can easily be reset and played by another group.
Currently in reprint, but soon available again, our hit family game Kitchen Rush. John will tell you a little more about this revised version.
Kitchen Rush is a cooperative game about running a restaurant together. Your goal is to keep your customers happy in a race against time. Each restaurant shift is played against a 4-minute timer, and in that time you need to seat patrons, take orders, collect ingredients, and cook meals. You all play simultaneously, and you'll need to coordinate your actions to get everything done. You take actions by placing your sand timer in that part of the restaurant. If you go to reception, you can welcome 2 new patron cards to the dining room. Then another player could put their timer in the dining room to take an order, putting it by their player board. Once you have an order, you need to send your timer to the storage room to collect the ingredients you need to put on the plate, and then send your timer to the oven to cook it. But every task takes time for your worker to complete, and you can't move the sand timer again until its sand has run out. So you need to share out the work between players to get it all done in time. When the shift is over, you check to see if you prepared the meals correctly to see if you won. To help teach you the rules, the game is broken up into scenarios that slowly introduce new elements to the experience. To start out in the restaurant business, you first open to your friends, serving them a simple menu. Then you introduce new ingredients, such as spices, which you have to get from the greenhouse. The tiny spice cubes are kept in a bag, which will slow you down as you fumble to take the right ones. In later scenarios, you'll be given more work to juggle, such as washing your dishes and going shopping to buy more ingredients. As the game gets harder, you have to communicate well with your teammates to coordinate actions, so that while you're cooking, someone else is making sure the storeroom has the ingredients you need. With the pressure of the timer, everyone's hands getting in the way of each other, and people shouting orders, it has a fun, frantic feel of working in a restaurant. The restaurant will expand, adding new sections to the board, and you'll have to manage finances, making sure you're making enough money from customers to pay your staff each shift. If you can't afford their wages, a sand timer will quit, making it even harder to work without them. The scenario system lets you find the difficulty level that's right for you. And if you want even more of a challenge, there are missions and events you can add in. Kitchen Rush is an exciting, energetic game for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, that plays in 20 to 60 minutes, depending on scenario.
Bonfire is a gamer's game by Stefan Feld. It was released last October and is currently available online and at local retailers.
Bonfire is a strategy game from designer Stefan Feld. It's set on a dark planet which relies on bonfires as their source of light and warmth. But now they've been extinguished, and you play as gnomes trying to reignite them to score points. Your player board represents your city with 7 spaces for bonfires. Every turn you take 1 action by spending the corresponding action tile. The blue action lets you move your boat. The inner islands contain the task tiles you need to light bonfires. You pay a red action tile and the required resources to take a task and place it in your city. Later, when you have the items required for a task, you must take a turn to light the bonfire. It's worth points at the end of the game. You also get to place your novice in the High Council to receive a bonus. If you move to one of the outer islands, you can spend a white action tile to recruit a Guardian of the Light, placing it on your path. They can also be used to start a procession, moving your guardians along the path outside your city and receiving a resource from where they land. To extend that path, you must take a green action, choosing a path tile from the board. The purple action lets you rotate the Great Bonfire, taking 2 items from where it points, either an action tile, a resource, or one of the portals. The portals are placed on your city in between paths and bonfires. You get extra points for having a lit bonfire next to the matching colour path, and more with a portal, but portals can only be built starting from the right of the city and paths from the left, so achieving it takes some careful planning. If you have a path connected to a bonfire via a portal, you can spend a white tile to move a Guardian of the Light through the portal to the bonfire for some big points. The brown action is for recruiting gnomes. Specialist gnomes give you an ongoing ability, such as being able to build portals in any order. Elder gnomes are worth points, for example, for every portal you have, but only when you take the card, so you should wait until it's worth scoring, but before another player grabs it. To get more action tiles, you need to add a new fate tile to your board. You get an action for each icon, and extra if you're able to connect up matching icons. The end game is triggered when a certain number of novices are in the High Council. All players get 5 more turns, but you can finish early to take a point bonus instead. Bonfire is a deep game with potential for many strategies. It plays 2 to 4 players in 70 to 100 minutes for ages 12 and up.
Let's talk about possibly the best Euro game ever, Hansa Teutonica. In 2020, we published the big box edition with all the expansions included. And it sold out almost immediately. We are printing more and expect it to be available again in the second quarter of 2021.
The Hansa Teutonica Big Box is a new edition of the popular strategy game with all of its expansions in one box. The game is set in Germany during the Middle Ages. You play as merchants in the Hanseatic League, an alliance of guilds. Your goal is to improve your standing and gain the most prestige points to win the game. The core of the game is in competing to create trade routes between cities on the board. You can spend actions to place one of your traders or merchants along a route, but other players can compete for the same routes by spending an action to displace your trader and replace it with theirs. However, to do that, they have to weaken themselves by losing one of their pieces from their personal supply. And when they bump you off, you not only get to choose where to move your trader to, but you're allowed to add an extra piece to the board for free. So the game encourages you to block players by rewarding heavily when you get displaced. This gives the game some exciting player interaction as you fight back and forth over crucial parts of the board. When you claim a route, you can establish an office in one of the cities connected to it. Later on, when a trade route to your city is claimed, you will score points, no matter who claimed the route. In some cities, instead of building an office, you can improve one of the abilities on your player board. This can transform your turns by giving you more actions to take or making those actions stronger, such as being able to recruit more traders and merchants. This big box edition contains all 3 expansions available for the game. Britannia, which adds a map of Great Britain, the East expansion, which adds a map of Eastern Germany, as well as mission cards for the original map, and the 3rd expansion, Emperor's Favour, introduces special powers for players to buy. Hansa Teutonica is an award-winning strategy game that plays 3 to 5 players, ages 12 and up, in 45 to 90 minutes.
Thank you very much for your attention, and we hope you had fun with our overview of some of our games. This year also features games like The Dwarf's Big Box, Doodle Dungeon featuring illustrations by John Kowalik, and our children's game Honey, and much more. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Pegasus Spiele Global Facebook page to never miss any updates and announcements. We, from the Pegasus Spiele team, hope you have a lot of fun while playing and wish you have a great time at Tabletop Gaming Live.
Pegasus Spiele. Wir machen Spaß. www.pegasus.de